I can justify why Jordan died that night. He drank drove, he drug drove, he sped. What do you expect? Whereas for someone like Jordan's victims, I can't justify what happened to those kids. They were 5 kids sitting in a car.
He paid the ultimate price himself for those choices, of course, and we do anything for it never to have happened at all. The truth is, our son didn't wake up on the day that he did what he did with that crash going, I'm going to intend to do all of this. Of course not. But his intentions mean absolutely nothing if his choices are harming other people.
In part 2 of my chat with Melissa and Peter McGuinness, whose son Jordan died and killed 4 other people in a car crash, we talk about their lifelong mission to change attitudes of young drivers. Given what they've been through, I found it quite amazing how they not only came to terms with what happened, but also their outlook on life, and are now doing everything in their power to ensure the lessons learnt from Jordan's actions are not lost. Have a listen to what they have to say. I honestly don't know if I would have the courage to not only face what they have been through, but the ability to turn something so tragic into something worthwhile. If you have young children, I suggest you have a listen, and maybe even get your kids to have a listen as well, because what they say relates to so many aspects of life and the choices that we make. Melissa and Peter, welcome back to I Catch Killers for part 2.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us again.
Thanks, Gary.
I've got to say for part 1, it was very informative and emotional on talking about the experience of what you went through when your son Jordan involved in that car crash in which 4 other people were killed along with Jordan. And what came across, first of all, how well you guys have coped with it, like emotionally, and dissecting all the mixed emotions you went through with the loss, the tragedy, the pain, but you also carried the guilt, and you talk about the guilt, and I just want to ask you, and we touched on it in part 1, but where does that guilt come from? Breaking it down, if you could just identify what that guilt is about. Now, you said, Peter, in part 1, logically we weren't responsible for the actions, but you're carrying that guilt.
Yeah, I think it can't be broken down rationally. I think it speaks to Melissa's point in part 1. I think she was using the term justify. You can justify or rationalise certain things. There's other things that are deeply reflexive, visceral sort of feelings that you carry. Had Jordan survived, naturally he would have been in prison for a very long time.
And these are thoughts that you process through your mind, because that would have been a very long time.
So that's a guilt that he paid the ultimate price himself for those choices, of course, and we do anything for it never to have happened at all. But nonetheless, that guilt still sits out there, and while we do know rationally that it's not something that we need to carry, it's something that you do carry. And the rare times that you'll meet, parents that might have been through similar things, it's funny how often that is, just this feeling that just sits there.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's that connection, that bond that you have with your children. Melissa, you feel the same way?
We can't put it down. From the day that he killed those young adults, that the weight I talked about in part 1, that weight just sits so heavily on us. I can't not wake up and think about what Jordan did. In fact, a large part of our life right now is all about what he did, that grief. And I talk about grief is one of those things that you've got a ball of grief, and what happens with grief is that the grief doesn't reduce, right? The grief stays exactly the same. What happens is that life just grows around that grief, and I still grieve Jordan all the time. I'll never stop grieving with him, but what we've learned to do is to live with that grief a little bit better and to pick it up, to carry it, to nurture it, and what do you do with that grief?
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, what has resonated with Peter and I, that we're going to pick up that grief. We're going to nurture that weight, and we are going to make this world a better place with that weight that we carry. What else can you do with it?
Look, there's a sense of deep seated sense of accountability, responsibility that is beyond us. It's not about us.
Yeah.
It's actually about we've got this set of circumstances. What does it mean to other people? How can this apply more broadly into the community? Because this whole, all the elements of road trauma are ostensibly preventable. And I guess we'll go into this later, but the fact that we've had the perspective that we've got, tragically, it should mean something for other people. It's not about necessarily just about our journey and our lived experience. It's actually about what that lived experience can and should mean for other people.
And we all can look in the mirror and see these set of circumstances are not unique to yourselves, that could happen to other people. I think you said in part one that it was about 3 or 4 years after the accident that you decided to start making a difference and getting out there and getting a message across. How did that occur? Was it a light bulb moment that you thought we're gonna do something positive with this? How did it evolve?
Well, it was certainly not a light bulb moment. It was something that we felt. We felt that we wanted to do something for a long time. We thought about it, but we didn't know what to do, how to do, how do you put your head above the radar and even talk about this? How's it going to be received? So, by the way, I'm just going to pick you up on it. You said an accident. Jordan didn't have an accident that night. An accident is what happened to his victims. And I always like to, yes.
Valid point, and that is a slip of the tongue with myself in that preparing for this, and I'm glad you picked me up on that because I started writing this motor vehicle accident, but I've been consciously trying to call it a crash.
And you have.
And okay.
Yes. And we're really...
Point taken.
Yeah, very big on that. The accident happened to Jordan's victims. Jordan's was a choice.
Yep.
So getting back to your question, so in 2017, I met a lovely, she was a police officer at the time, Constable Tracy Clouston. She was running a Save Day Road Safety Expo at a school on the Gold Coast, and she just said, would you like to come and contribute? And I said, I really would like it. It was the first opportunity to go, all right, well, we'll try something. So I spoke for around about 24 minutes that day, and at the end of it, I had never public spoken. I was so nervous and I cried a lot. I couldn't even work the PowerPoint presentation. I had a friend, that was clicking through it because I was so nervous. And at the end of it, quite a few of the students came up, a lot of the responders that were there, the police, the ambos and the fireys came up and they went, wow, that was really powerful. And the reason that it was powerful, and I knew that what we should be talking into is Jordan's choices. There are no excuses for what Jordan did that night. He made choices, and that's what we talked into, and it was quite confronting. We then did a couple more of those Save Day expos with Senior Constable Tracy Clouston, and then I sort of thought, well, I'll just, I'll reach out to some of the parents that I knew and the teachers in the community and see if we could I could just go and talk myself at schools, and that's how it started. So we didn't necessarily sit down with a business plan and go, rightio, this is what we're going to do. It started out very, very organically. I was working 5 days a week when we started out, and I had this lovely boss who allowed me to go to 4 days a week. So I would have one day that I would go into schools and do a presentation, and bit by bit the program sort of emerged. So where we started and where we thought we should be was not where we are today. So for the last, we've been going for, I think we're in our 9th year now, and I think we really formalised this in around about 2019. I left my career in 2020 and we went full-time with U-Choose, but we learnt very quickly that we didn't have the answers, that the answers resided in this current generation, and that the idea was not to teach but was to extrapolate the solutions from this current generation, synthesize them and re-deliver them, so i.e., and I say this in the presentation today, for me, it's not a teaching paradigm. For me, it's a learning paradigm. Your generation is showing us how to make this really powerful. And that's the truth. We've really learnt from this generation, haven't we?
That's a really good summation of how the trip has been. Because I think from the very outset, won't be news to you, Gary, that school-based or community policing, it's constructive to have a bereaved person to talk to kids about choices and consequences.
Kids will listen to.
And I think that was very much, I guess, the role, if you like, very early on in the piece.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to us that right from the outset, the type of responses we were getting verbatim from kids themselves, also from teachers and parents, but particularly from the young people, was that they don't always immediately envisage themselves as a victim of anything. And that's a bit of a hard nut to crack, apparently. We found out from teachers and team behavioural psychologists, but they can actually see themselves, hang on, we're all holding a mirror up to them. So what was initially like a concept, I guess, which is a bit like storytelling, we'll just tell people about these circumstances and that will be enough, really quickly became something that we were noticing that put kids into a really authentic state of reflection about themselves. So what started off being a story about the circumstances surrounding Jordan's crash actually became something that was an exercise in self-reflection. And that's this verbatim feedback loop we're getting from participants.
How did you create that, Peter and Melissa? How did you deliver that? So you've got a group of school students there. They're all misbehaving. The teacher calls them in the line and, okay, these people are turning up to speak to you. How do you break the story down?
Well, funny, it's astute of you to say that, because the number of times it happens to this day that we'll have teachers telling us, and by the way, we also the program is also delivered to various other community organisations, well, even to adults these days, as an occupational health and safety course.
Yep.
Because the principles apply. But we've so often had teachers that will apologise in advance for their cohort. Right? Yeah. So they'll say, look, I've got to apologise for this mob. They're buggers. They're likely to be disruptive. We have never, ever, ever had a disruptive cohort go through this program, not once. And it's been delivered in every state and territory, I think now, and to many, many hundreds of thousands of kids over all these years. And you can hear a pin drop throughout the presentation phase of the program, which is 60 minutes every time. And we're learning more and more about why that is. As Melissa says, it's not something that we've got all the knowledge on, but because of that response to our content, we're deeply curious as to why kids lean into this. So year on year on year, we've learnt and we've maintained this curiosity about why these messages are working. And with the help of some fantastic voluntary, wellbeing and pastoral care educators, teen behavioural experts and so on, we've managed to refine the feedback that we're getting from the kids into a program that has become more and more deliverable and measurable beyond just the storytelling.
Okay.
And I was going to say, I think ostensibly the program is designed, the first half is very much about the backstory. That's what gets them into the deep state of personal reflection. And then the second part is, well, you know what, we can't do anything. There's nothing that we can really do. This is all about what you do. So you're feeling it now. You're feeling like you do anything to protect the people that you love. And I use this particular example, and it's probably the best example I think that I can use for You Choose. And it came from a conversation with a young man, and we were talking about, at the end of a presentation, young men particularly come up and they want to have a chat, and it's often, the big, rough and rugged apex sporting lad. And we'll talk about, the feelings you have when you run out onto a sporting field. You'll do anything to protect your mates out on that sporting field. You'll die, fight, kill, anything to protect your mates. And you're admired for your leadership and your protection attributes. However, those same young men who are doing anything to protect their mates out on the sporting field can then get into the car or other areas of their lives and endanger their mates that they were doing anything to protect over here on the sporting field. Protection and leadership is in you. How do we extract that, or how do we synthesize, harness that and bring that into the car in all those decision-making moments? So that's the sort of a little bit of, here you go, you're feeling those feelings. Leadership and protection is in it. You exhibit it in so many areas of your life. How do we harness that in those moments that matter?
Just that by way of an example, I understand the mentality of a young man in a football environment and all that. Yeah, we're going to protect, we're going to back you up, fight, and then flip it. Well, why do you lose that when you get in the car? You choose. Just break it down. What's the aim of the you choose?
So the mission is very much about creating social purpose behind the changes that are necessary, not just in road use culture, but in harm prevention culture in general. So the idea, Melissa touched on it before, it's not actually a teaching paradigm. So it's not like we've got all the answers, and the challenge here is to put the answers into the participants or into teenagers or the community in general. It's very much a mutual compact here, where through sort of a mutual reflection, we understand, and our wheelhouse is road trauma, so it's the context that we use, and it's a good one because most of these kids are either drivers or passengers by the time
so
we're
it's
talking
something
to them,
that's relatable to them.
So once we put aside these legacy myths that we've had around driving and road use, but in fact, in harm prevention in general, like for 100 years, about making the connections between intentions, choices, and actions, and the people that we most profess to want to love and protect, going through that process and enabling each other with various tools.
Break that down, that chain again. Just the
intentions, choices, and actions. So to explain that, Gary, you just said at the start of part two, you used the term accident.
Yep.
An accident is reflexive. We've been calling these things accidents since cars first arrived on our roads. And the nexus there is that because we didn't mean to cause it, therefore it's not our fault. It's an accident, bad luck.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have that embedded generationally, where road crashes are bad luck, where things that you didn't intend to happen, but through your choices, you harm other people. Oh, bad luck. You didn't mean it. Gary, I can't tell you how many times people will sympathise with us to this day, don't they, Melissa? They'll look in our face and they'll say, oh, poor Jordan, we've all done it.
Yeah, that was a conversation I had with you the other day. And
we've got a lot of work to do while that's still happening, and it's a reflex that people have. Because if Jordan had have done what he'd done for other people with anything but a motor vehicle, do you think anyone would be saying to us, oh, gee, poor Jordan, we've all done it. So we've got this paradigm that we use to make ourselves feel better. Oh, you didn't mean it. You crashed your car. You made choices in your car that caused harm to yourself, which, by the way, if you cause harm to yourself, there's not a single person there. That person's got a family that are dealing with grief and all that sort of stuff, let alone harming other people. So as soon as participants in this program get onto these really obvious dynamics that, well, wait a sec, we got control over these things.
So
right?
trying to, and I was fascinated by your take on it, and agreed with you 100% that changing the narrative from I can imagine those words coming out of people's mouths, saying to you, "Oh, we've all done it. You did stupid things when you were young." We've got to change that, haven't we?
Well, the messages that go to young people are that this is just part of growing up.
Yeah,
it's part of life.
Crazy, silly, reckless young guy. We're all like that.
Rite of passage.
And look, we don't need to name them, but we would have all seen them, particularly when we were younger and growing up, where the type of campaigning that's out there around road trauma and road trauma prevention is about people finding relatability with teens.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to find a relatability with a teen is to tell them about you as a teen. We think we know teenagers because we used to be one.
Yeah.
So it's common. We see really accomplished, highly intelligent people engaging teenagers by saying, geez, when I was your age, I used to go to the drive-in in the boot of the car, or I used to ride on that, and all of the reckless behaviour.
Yeah.
And then the message at the end of it is, yeah, but don't you do it. Okay, so all they're hearing about this is that everyone does it, right? And then the messages, which are, by the way, true, the neurological messages that they get, your brain's not fully, developed to be able to make, informed decisions until you're like 25, or you're impulsive until your brain develops properly. All that stuff's true. But when you add that on top of our culture, which is this mythological culture about bad luck, not choices, you've got the messages that you're giving to teenagers are just that it's just a bit of a dangerous time to be alive, and it's part of life to be making these really reckless decisions that can harm or kill other people.
Yeah, when look, so powerful in what you're saying, and changing that narrative. I use an example. What's one that the coward punch, the king hit. That's a classic example.
Really good one.
It was a king hit. This bloke got king hit, and there was no shame to king hit. But once the terminology was changed on the back of the campaign to a coward punch, that really identified it for what it is. And I take on board with what you're saying about changing it from this accident, because that has all those connotations, to a crash. And why did the crash happen? Well, there was a number of things that led to that.
And as soon as that's why intentions, choices and actions are a part of the really important reflective framework.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, our son didn't wake up on the day that he did what he did with that crash going, I'm going to intend to do all of this. Of course not. He's a good person, pretty much like anyone else that would attend a YouChoose program. But his intentions mean absolutely nothing if his choices are harming other people. And that nexus is really revealing to teenagers, and they lean into it because they've got these strong protective instincts that Melissa pointed to before.
Yeah, and that was a great example.
And to marry them up is really powerful. By the way, this also works with adults.
Yeah.
So you could be in a room full of people, and we do this exercise really frequently, where you'll say, by a show of hands, how many people have seen a social media post written in the first person to someone who's passed away? Almost every hand goes up.
Yeah.
And with the older people, it's like, hands up if you've got or you've seen a tattoo on someone that's commemorating someone that's passed away.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing to express your love like that. But here's a challenge. Move that love that you've got for your friends and your family and your mates and put it right now in the present. Because that person that you might have been able to influence or help or just pull up or call out, but you step back from it, they can't now see your tattoo and they can't read that social media post. So let's step all of that love that we've got as mates, as family, let's move that into the here and now and come up with ways inside each of our social groups to put aside passivity, which we can speak to later, and start talking to each other about this
One of
stuff.
the notes I've got about is don't be a passive observer in the situation. And I like, again, I like the messaging that you're saying. It's all very well after the event to say, we cared for your brother, you're one of us and all that.
Rest in paradise, Jono.
Yeah,
it's too late, he can't hear you, mate.
But the message before he got in the car should have been, mate, I love you, don't get in the car and drive.
This is at the bottom of, and by the way, this isn't a theory that we've got. We've interacted with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids.
Have you actually done hundreds of thousands of kids?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We just did 30,000 kids, a condensed version of it at the B Street Arena event in Sydney just last week at Kudos.
But over the years, the amount of survey data that we've got in every case.
You've put some of the data in research with the universities.
Yeah, that's right. So we're really fortunate. Last year, the Griffith University Criminology Institute actually did a randomised controlled trial on the effectiveness of the program.
Wow.
Which is a bit nerve-wracking, of course, because, they could get out the end of it and go, it's not as good as you think it is. But look, it's in peer review now, so it's close to being complete. But the initial evaluation has demonstrated that the program has a significant effect on risk-taking intentions and extrapolated behaviours inside teen social groups. And it points to passive individuals inside social groups being at high risk of harmful behaviour inside their social settings, which is very revealing to us because...
Let's break that down. Talk a bit more about that.
We got curious about this, didn't we, Melissa? I know, I'm sorry.
No, you please do. I love listening to you.
I know we got really curious about this because there was a pattern that came out in our post-program surveys and in our anecdotal interactions with kids. And it wouldn't matter what region we were in, what city, what socio-demographics, the number of times we heard comments like, I was just listening to that piece and it made me think about that time that I just got into that car and I just knew I shouldn't have, but I just did.
Yeah.
And we hear that a lot. We often hear there's 3 people in the car, 2 of them are scared.
Yep.
One of them's doing something else. The driver's not paying attention. This passivity, and they recognise it in each other. And when you see the groups of friends, teenage friends talking to each other, you're not necessarily looking at that determined lawbreaker, that street racer, that motoring enthusiast type of person.
Yeah.
Maybe the program will not get through to a hardcore 5% of people that are determined to break the law. But that's not where most of the crashes generally come. All sorts of people get involved in road trauma, right? So that level of passivity became really interesting. And these are people that are best friends, Gary, or cousins. People have known themselves forever going, I feel like I can't say something. I feel like I should say something, but I can't. And it's not about turning every kid into an angel, of course. But they'll tell you that once or twice a year, maybe a few times more, a set of circumstances will come up when they really know that they should say something, but they feel that they can't. So the bones of the program, or a big element of the program, is to practice these permissions, to give each other permission to call each other out or talk to each other about this harmful stuff when we know we've got to.
How do we make that cool for the kids, as in they, instead of being, the person that, if they're at the school formal and someone's runs up to the teacher to say, Johnny's about to get in the car and drive, and then the kids would turn on that. Can we change, do you think we can change that culture around? Yeah,
it's a personal compact between 2 people, and the secret is to not make it prescriptive. So the secret is to enable people to have these conversations and to practice them throughout a school year in schools or whatever the community group happens to be, just like you practice your footy or your musical instruments, because you make all those linkages. We want to protect each other. We want to look out for each other.
So I'm talking in a class, create a hypothetical situation. How would you react to this, Peter, or how would you react to this,
What's interesting, I actually think that that's the magic dust of you choose.
Yep.
So we talked about it in part 1 that what we hope to achieve through our program is that when we come in and we do our component of storytelling, the first part is about breaking down the teens. The second part is about building them up. This is about what you can do inside your social ecosystems to protect yourself, protect your mates and the people that you love. So the magic dust, I think, is that ability to, whilst those teens are in that deep state of personal reflection, I talk exactly about that. One of our biggest take-homes is if you get nothing else out of today, when you walk out these doors today, if you love your mate, give them permission today to call you out on your potentially poor behaviours in advance of those moments that matter. So don't wait till 2 a.m. when you're at that party on a Saturday night and everything's going sideways. Don't wait till then to have that conversation. It's too late. Have the conversation today. I know as teenagers, I'm watching my 16-year-old go through it now. It's hard to have those conversations. You're not allowed to have those conversations. This gives the teens the ability to walk out, have the conversations today. Get in advance of those awkward moments. Have the awkward conversation today. You're feeling it.
Yep.
You're feeling that protection and that love that you have for each other. Now is your time to talk about it so that when that moment comes next Saturday night or whenever it is, you've had that conversation. So it might not work for everybody on that day, but it might give the kids the ability to start those conversations that they don't know how to start or they're not allowed to have. It gives them permission to go,
It just provides a social context.
And why isn't that we feel like we can't speak up in those moments? Let's break that down.
The study's interesting because, and this is not to pull apart one set of circumstances.
Yeah.
But if you were just to use a car with 5 people in it,
Yeah.
we usually operate on a binary that says if the driver has caused a crash, then we've got a perpetrator and 4 victims.
Yeah.
That car is actually a social ecosystem.
Okay.
Right,
I'm following you. It's an interesting concept.
There's 5 people in that car.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they won't always be in the same social group. But if at 2 people in that car have got this predisposed, I'm not going to feel like a dickhead if I say something. I've already told you in advance, you know, if you're my best mate, you're my cousin, you're a friend. Even this, we see this work in school communities. This is the culture that we've got. When we know we've got to say something, we will. And this isn't about dobbing on the slightest thing. This is about 2 people deciding between each other that when I feel this compulsion, and this is how they carry guilt about this, right? I feel this compulsion to say something, but I feel too awkward to say it. Well, don't feel awkward. If you think you've got to say it to me, say it.
Yeah.
Now, then you're starting to recognise that you've got social elements at play to road trauma prevention that are in addition to all that stuff that of course we need. Like we've never spent, you know, more on safer cars. We've never had safer roads.
Yeah.
We've never had more regulations, more stringently policed. And we need all of that. You know, we need the driving and the skills training. But the road trauma statistics are not good, right?
Yeah.
And we may be having more people survive because of the quality of the safety in cars. But in some jurisdictions, in some age groups, the statistics are actually heading in the opposite direction. So what are the elements that we need to reinforce all of this fantastic investment that we're making, which, by the way, we need to keep making? We're not saying this is a binary.
No, you've got to have all the components.
Yeah, but those underlying factors that look at our road use culture, which is what we were speaking about before, about accidents versus crashes and intentions versus choices.
Yep.
And you overlay that with these social compacts that actually give people permission to act on their instincts, to love their mates. It's funny, isn't it?
Or protect.
And protect their mates.
Lead.
We the number of times we hear mums in particular that will contact us, and it's every week, you know, like it's all the time. We'll have mums contact us and say, well, I thought little Johnny was going to a road safety thing. And he comes home and he tells me, hugs me and tells me he loves me. I haven't got a grunt out of him for the last 6 months. So who would have thought that so much of these messages from some of the more unlikely kids, this is why I say that the demographics are universal.
Yeah.
Everyone loves someone, usually.
Yeah.
And particularly in young people, love and protection go hand in hand, those protective instincts. And the You Choose program provides a framework to build those habits out on top of those feelings of love and protection.
And the way, and you look at it as you get older in life and you look back where the real strength comes from, and, you know, naively as a teenager you're thinking the strength comes from just being part of the group and all that, but it's the people that do stand up and call people out on their behaviour. Like if someone's going to get in the car and say, no, you've had too much to drink, you're not doing it, that type of thing, to make that acceptable. So I'm finding it fascinating what you're talking about, like introduce, like let's hit them hard, let's hit them with the love feeling, you know, love and protection. This is what you're meant to do.
Well, they're already feeling it from that first part. It's very confronting to see that first part of the You Choose presentation. And again, the power of You Choose is to stand up as Jordan's mother and own everything that he did.
Yeah.
Everything that he did. We make no excuses for Jordan. I said it in part 1, Jordan would never have intended to harm the people that he loved, the people that he most loved, his little sisters, yet it just doesn't matter what he intended to do. All that matters is what he did. So they're feeling that love. And you just touched on something before when you were talking about changing one punch kills to the coward punch. Yep. That's sort of a little bit of an analogy of the example I used on the football field.
Yep.
When they hear that language around road safety and they think about, well, I do that with my mate, I do protect him out there, it gives them that feeling of going, well, I will start to protect him here. It's a little bit like that coward's punch. When you change that wording, it means
the
something to them.
And it becomes a social purpose, this thing. It's not Peter and Melissa own it and we're and we're putting it to you or giving it to you, you own the You Choose philosophies now, Gary, because we've spoken about it.
Yeah.
Everyone that participates in this
Now,
is responsible for this social
can
change
carry it on.
because preventable trauma is unacceptable. Something that can be prevented through choices is obviously unacceptable. It's not a part of life. And you'll hear people that have been affected by road trauma say this over and over again. It wasn't until it happened to us that we realise we're just so flippant when it comes to this thing. And while the fatalities are kind of stable, climbing in some areas, not in others, we're still looking at 60, 70,000 serious injuries every year that are life-changing for whole families that simply should not have to happen. You'd know forensic crash investigators that will tell you that they've never seen a genuine accident in 30 years on the job.
When they break it down,
like
they always find
of God where a tree falls out of the sky.
No, this happened. The person
it's
was
a series of choices that cause these things.
Just tell me, with the stuff that you're doing, there seems to be either of you teachers before this, or there seems to be some academic research behind it, or did it just evolve? And I think you mentioned, Melissa, that came organically, but it's really clear and concise messaging that you're delivering here.
But it's because it came from this teen generation. We didn't go there going, we have all the answers. Well, actually, that's where we started.
Yeah.
And then we realised, wait one moment, we need to understand this generation, extrapolate the answers from them, synthesise the messages and deliver them straight back to the kids. It's why it's so powerful.
It's driven by the young people themselves.
Okay,
so the answer is that no, we're not teachers.
Right.
We've had fantastic assistance and support over the years from policing, first responders, but especially from professional educators who are really curious about why this program is working and are assisting us to put together the compact way that we can get it out without being prescriptive.
Yeah.
And this is the balancing act. It's like, okay, you've got to enable the kids
to find the answers,
to do these things for themselves, and to treat it like a social purpose without teaching it at them. Because if you teach it at them and it's prescriptive, they won't take it on board.
I sort of call it feel and reveal. You're feeling it and you're revealing it to yourself.
Okay, that's because the way that you're speaking to me, it's just my mind's ticking over. I'm thinking, I can understand how kids would buy into that, and the narratives, the examples that you're using, and how you're breaking it down, letting them come up with the answers. I want to ask this: we're talking, driving situations. Do you think this type of education can help for other issues that come with being a young person in today's society, consent and bullying and different things like that?
It's how we look out for each other. And in fact, it's not just about teenagers, Gary. We're doing piloting work on exactly the same principles with fly in, fly out workforce. With their industrial safety, which is they've got highly regulated compliance and safety. What more can we do other than to make these rules and regulations as stringent as we can make them? Well, changing hearts and minds is really important, right? So it's like,
as a years of a police officer, I know rules and regulations can only go so far.
We had the arrogance in 2017 to think that we had something to teach, or that just sort of like sharing the story was enough. Yeah. But the more you dig into these dynamics, the more you realise we've got so much to learn.
Yes.
So, and by the way, every generation changes. Inside 2 years, kids communicate with each other completely differently inside 2 and 3 year periods.
Got to evolve. I know part of the aim and the mission was to deliver this message to all schools across the country. How close are you coming to getting that, or what direction are you heading at in that regards to get the message out to all the schools?
Well, we're a fair way off being in every school.
Yep.
But we are in every state and territory, and we've got many, many hundreds of schools across Australia. And like we call it, it's a social mission.
Yeah.
So we call participants, once they're finished, You Choose mission advocates.
Right.
Because it's up to them inside it's up to them inside their social groups, even if it's just between
So it's that ripple effect. Drop it in and it just keeps spreading.
And that many kids will come up and say, what can we do?
Yeah.
And you know what? They're the best because they can go to the school in the suburb of, oh, my cousin doesn't do this. She needs to do it or he needs to do it. Works great out in the regions because out in the regions outside of the cities, they're just determined to go, this whole region needs it. Yeah. And I'll go into every school. You know?
Part of that mission, part of the actual presentation that we do is a call to action that if you like this, here is the call to action. This is, I'm handing over the baton to you to go and do something. And we do a lot of parent-student evenings, and of course, parents become our biggest advocates. We love doing parent-student because parents get it straight off and they just go, wow, that really meant something. Parents become our the people that advocate for us. The teens become the advocates. So we are actually essentially run through the community. We don't really promote ourselves. It's through peer advocacy, through teacher to teacher, student to principal, parent to school.
Police district to police district.
Yeah.
So, and look, parents are that good because they'll often ask us, oh, my son or daughter has just got their L plates.
Yep.
What should I say to them? And of course our response is, if we had our time again, we now understand that by the time you're having these social, cultural discussions with your teen, it's a bit late.
Yep.
We need to be setting these examples, and this is what these future generations can do by the time you're putting your newborn into the capsule in the car.
Yeah.
So that when you get that speeding fine, you're not over the kitchen table going, those bloody cops, they've entrapped me again. I know.
Respect it.
How about respecting that?
Yeah.
You know, it's not about, lionising people that are sort of busting speed cameras all over the place.
Yeah.
It's about sort of understanding that unless you are a determined lawbreaker, you haven't got the civic right to drive however you want. And you need to show your kids that. Don't set the cruise control at 119 because you're convinced the cops won't get you for less than 10. Show the kids that you're serious about protecting them and protecting each other and other people from completely preventable harm, so that we don't perpetuate this culture where the rules and frameworks that surround keeping people safe on the roads are somehow separate from other law.
Yeah.
They're not.
Have the government bought into this in assisting you? Have you had any support from government in delivering what you're delivering?
We've not had government funding.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing in the very early years, I can't lie. There's problems when you're delivering something nationally.
Yeah.
Across state borders, right? Because
–
it's the state transport departments that have usually got the funding to assist with these kind of things. But overall, Gary, I think it may have been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because the communities themselves support this program. Schools are happy to support the program and fund our ability to deliver it. And in many respects, that sort of empowers us to be able to go and be curious about different methods and new methods and be a little bit disruptive.
Okay, you're probably right there with if you get the government backing, that comes restrictions and
it does. And I feel very much like that there is a lot of government top-down stuff right now in education. But I don't feel like there's very much grassroots from the bottom up. And I think that's the role we've discovered that we play. And it's been actually easier to just be able to explore that avenue on our own without any restrictions from anyone. We've got the ability to go in and understand this generation and also to tick their boxes. Sometimes when you work with the government, there's so many political boxes that you must tick that sometimes you wind up, you can inadvertently untick the boxes of the teens. And again, I think that's why the program can be so powerful, because we are not restricted to doing certain things. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from the teens is that, for goodness sake, don't walk in and make a 17 or an 18-year-old aware about road safety. The second that I hold up the Fatal Five, which is necessary, they must know that. And I think awareness starts a little bit earlier. The second we start doing that is the second they go, well, I'm not going to listen to you now because you're now just telling me stuff I already know, therefore I'm not going to listen.
So we definitely don't present UCHES as anything other than complementary to everything else that is out there. It's certainly not a binary, but it does reinforce existing methods with this sort of socio-cultural piece. That sits in underneath all the other stuff they absolutely must have.
Well, the power of your story, as we've talked about, it grabs people in. Teenagers are going to listen to it, and where you say teachers might apologise beforehand, the kids are going to be disruptive. I think most kids would realise, well, this is not the time to be disruptive when you guys are up there telling your stories. In the delivery of so many sessions talking about what you're talking about, how does it impact on you two personally? Like, there's a lot of work that you've been doing and you're reliving it. How do you keep going?
I think sometimes people assume that we are this big organisation.
Yeah.
We're not. Peter works full-time outside of UCHUS and then spends a lot of hours working on the strategy with UCHUS.
Yep.
I do full-time hours working inside the school system, all of the bookings, all of the everything. I do all of it, and we do a lot of travel. So I spend a lot of time coordinating schools, coordinating travel. It's actually really tiring.
I would imagine.
And sometimes I feel a little bit personally like I work off an emotionally empty tank. I'm sort of up and down all the time because what I do is such an emotional and taxing profession. But I get this immediate uplift from the teens right then and there. Sometimes with some schools I might only get 60 minutes. Sometimes I get 90 minutes. So we get this opportunity to talk to teens and the conversations that come out and then maybe those testimonials from teens later. It just
nourishes.
Yeah, it fills my tank straight away. And I got this beautiful message from a young man from a Gold Coast school last week, and he said to me, he sent me a message straight afterwards, and it was something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, that was so powerful. My mates and I, we walked straight out. We did what you said to do. We exchanged those permissions and commitments. He said, we all had a little cry. He then sent me a message the following Friday night and he said, I just want to let you know that we all hooked up together for our, Friday night. It's raining. Ordinarily, we'd go drifting. Tonight, we just said, we're not going to do that. We'll go do something else.
You're making a difference.
So that's the sort of thing. I mean, I can't stand up here and go, we've saved X amount of lives.
Yeah.
But that is what inspires me to get out of bed every single day. I know it inspires Peter to go, there you go, there's that one kid. All of him and his mates consciously made a decision to go, we're not going to do that.
That's that social purpose.
I could give you so many examples of that. And sometimes I will go to some schools and I might have every single person hug me on the way out. And I haven't done anything particularly amazing. They're just feeling, they're looking at me going, could I do that to my mother or could I do that to my mate's mother? They're feeling it.
But there's an optimism to it.
So optimistic.
So there's this change energy. And it's actually not something that's necessarily cautionary. It's this change impetus that you see, all in different ways in different schools. I guess to answer the question from my perspective, all of that we love to hear over this long arc, and we hear this from many, many schools where they treat it as a cultural tradition. So the UCHUS mission is passed on from cohort to cohort.
Right.
So you'll have the incoming kids in year 12 who have done their UCHUS in year 11, go talk to the year 7s. This is how we look out for each other in senior school. Yeah. And by the time that you're doing senior school, you're going to be the custodians of the UCHUS mission. And that's not about us.
No,
that's them driving.
You're empowering them to
and
continue
that happens
on.
over, and we see it a lot. And when you see that, you say, this is what the intention is. You guys, you young ladies,
we're handing over that baton to you.
You own this social purpose. That's that social perpetual motion machine, which is beyond us. Okay, we're not storytelling, we're not commemorating. We're actually involving every participant in their own journey into making these changes and to preventing wholly preventable harm by stepping into it.
It's a smart way of getting that message across, isn't it? Because I'm just thinking when I was a teenager a long time ago, but you rebel when you're told to do something. Yes. Told not to do that. I'm going to do it straight away. But once you change the culture and the thinking and then you become invested in it, it becomes your program.
If you step back from attempting to be relatable
with
a 16-year-old and just being vulnerable enough to go, here's some tools.
And let them sort it out. And let them
go, hey, this is an outrage. This stuff shouldn't be happening. It becomes their mission to change. Old buggers are setting fire to the earth.
Yeah.
We're destroying the drink.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So that's their response to it. So, and it's not,
sell us out as the silly old fools. What will we know, and empower them to
it's
make
like
the difference.
When all those pennies start to drop.
Yeah.
For all of those reasons that we spoke about before, and there's a multitude of them.
Yeah.
But we're learning as we go how to connect them all together and turn it into an enabling program that each school or each participant just takes on board a little bit differently.
I think somebody said to us once, this generation, they're the problem. And what we've discovered is that this generation is not the problem. This generation is the solution.
Yeah.
And by even changing some of that
that's a
language,
different perspective
yeah,
too, isn't it?
the example I used on the football field, just by revealing that makes a whole lot of sense to a bunch of boys who are sitting there going, why do I protect my mate on the football field? Yet over here when we're at a party, we're doing all this sort of stuff. Why is it that we celebrate risk? And another part of our messaging is, I was listening to that story you're telling about, if you had the 5 people in the car, and you have the crash and you've got the driver who is the perpetrator, every single person in that car that's thinking something and doesn't speak up, they're all part of that problem. So enabling those kids to be part of that solution and making them to understand they are part. They can change something that our generation could. Here's the baton. What are you going to do with these feelings you have right now when you walk out of there? And it's not uncommon for teens sometimes to tear up during the presentations. They think about how much they love their loved ones and what they're not doing to show protection or leadership in their mates. You're feeling it. What are you going to do on data? What does action look like now? You're feeling it. I can't do anything to help you in that moment at 2 a.m. when you're at that party or God knows where. Can't do anything for you. You feel it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? What's action?
You also release them by saying this is not about you being perfect.
Yeah.
Or about you being angelic.
Yep.
It's just about you doing what we all know those couple of times a year. We all know it. We all feel it. Oh, I need to say something. Oh, I just can't.
And recognising passive and impulsive behaviour and owning it. And one of our strapline, we're described as Australia's youth-led mission to change driving culture, which we now realise that for all the messages that we've got around driving, they apply to anything that is around harm. So you can use the same things to minimise harm. But our motto is own the choice, own the outcome. And if you are in your life, if you actively be accountable for what you are going to do, you're less likely to make really bad choices. If somebody was filming you 100% of the time, you wouldn't do those things that you might do if it was anonymous. Imagine that you're being filmed 100% of the time.
Yeah,
would you do that?
A good example.
And I use this example with my own children. We've got a lovely friend in our family. He's a lovely gentleman. I always say, would you do that in front of that person? Like if he was watching you, would you do that, Kitty? And if you wouldn't do it in front of our great friend that you love and admire, then perhaps don't do it anywhere. It's like a beast with its own head. Culture change is on its way. The teaching part won't need to be the main part. It's on its way. Culture change is happening, a bit like smoking.
Yep.
It's happening on its own. But we are working on what does long-term look like, and we're very protective over all of our message to make sure exactly what you're saying. The last thing that we ever want YouTubers to be is tokenistic.
Yeah.
It's no good. If it's tokenistic, forget it. It's got to be genuine, and it's got to get kids moving into action. YouTubers is not an awareness program. We're an action program. What does action look like? We can't do the action. This current generation can. It's just so optimistic.
So say that again, because I
don't know. What did I say?
Not an awareness.
We're not an awareness program. Yeah. We're not. This teen generation, they are aware. What we are is an action program. What does action look like inside your social ecosystem? You're protecting your mate on the football field. What are you going to do to protect your mate, not only in the car, but in all those social situations where there's drugs, alcohol, bullying, consent, the coward's punch, all those things? What is action inside your social ecosystem, or just you or your little friendship group? And Gary, leadership can happen between just 2 people in those critical moments that matter. There's plenty of parents out there going, I would really like to get this organisation into my school for a parent-student evening, because it is so powerful to watch a teenager and mum and dad, or dad, whoever, sitting side by side during that, because they're having a little conversation without saying any words. And it is the most beautiful thing to see at an end of a presentation, to see a son hugging their mum. And I think, it's just so beautiful, and I have pangs of
I could imagine how emotional it would be.
But it's
and they
so
release each other from
uplifting.
all this language of accountability.
Yeah.
If mum and dad know that Jono and his mates have actually exchanged fair income, exchanged these permissions, it's not complex. We've been talking about complex issues that underpin all this, but actually acting on it is not complex. Like it's what we were saying before, changing the Earth's temperature is hard. Stepping in and protecting someone you love in those few moments where you know you really should, and you've already pre-agreed that you're going to do it, that's actually kind of easy. So when parents see this, it's like, oh, wow, great. We don't have to have this complexity.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, and I think you guys touch on it too. Not just teenagers too. This messaging can be young adults, and we all make decisions in life, and the consequences can be devastating. And,
cannot tell you how many parents have come up going, I needed to hear that. I needed that message. My kid's not the problem. I'm the problem. And, therein is the power of You Choose. It's feel and reveal. They've come to their own conclusions about what they're doing inside their worlds. It's just so powerful.
How can people reach out to you? I hope people are listening to this and think, okay, this is exactly what we need.
So you can jump on our website, which is youchooseYRS.org.au. Or you can reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook, which is again You Choose YRS, short for Youth Road Safety, and we will do our very best. We will go anywhere in this country. We will work with any organisation, teens, hospitals. We do all the big arena events around the country. We don't see anyone as competitors. We see everybody as the solution, and we will do our very best. And we often say that. We're going to do this social mission for as long as we can. We're going to change Australian driving culture, or we're going to die trying. One of the two things is going to happen.
We'll speak to one person. We'll speak to 10,000 people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's part of the process.
Together, you are a force of energy. I've got to say that. You've inspired myself on the stuff that you're doing and the energy that you bring to the table, bring to the room here. And I can imagine the impact you're having on the people that you're speaking to. And I just want to take a moment to reflect, like with what Jordan did, how would he be feeling about what you guys are doing now?
It's a very worthwhile question to ask. And this is the power of it. We'll never know.
Yeah.
That's the sadness of it, but it's also the power of it. I think that's best answered by saying, what would our discussions be had he survived? And I think he would be the type of person that would be trying to make it right in whatever way that he could possibly make it right. So I guess that's what we're doing, because I think that deep down would be what he would do if he was here with us. Yeah.
Well, you guys have said you've carried the guilt and shame, and what you're doing, and I could argue the toss about the guilt and shame. Like, there's victims in all sorts of things, and you guys are victims in this as I'll choose my words carefully here, but I'll just say you guys are victims in this as well. But you're carrying that guilt and shame, and the work that you're doing and what you're giving back to the community, I'm just in awe of, really.
I guess we're victims of Jordan's choices, but, through this whole process, we just don't seek sympathy. It is just all reserved for Jordan's victims' families and Jordan's victims' families. And can I just take a moment to say, Gary, for someone who has a son that created so much carnage for all of those responding officers, those police officers that were there on the night, the ambos, the fireys, those poor police that had to turn up on our door, and do the death knock. Like, thank you for all your services that you've done. We think about it, and I take the opportunity all the time to thank those services for what they do, because you have to clean up decisions like this day in, day out. And I always think, how on earth do you go home at night? Like, how do you unsee something that you've seen? So thank you for all the work that you've done in your career.
What you're doing now.
Yeah.
It's deeply meaningful.
Well, I think creating the platform, I just take on board what you say for the first responders, and I see what they go through, and it's difficult, but we're trying to limit that as much as possible that can happen. In regards to what I'm doing now, what I'm finding inspiration from, because when I left the cops, I was sort of at a loose end. Where do I find purpose from what I was doing? But this has allowed, doing the podcast here has given me a platform to allow people like yourselves a voice and a platform to say what you're doing. And I think you're making a bigger difference than I could have ever in the police. And, you change the actions of one person, and you've seen the ramifications or the ripple effect from one person. You just change one person and allow them to avoid what you guys have had to go through. That's making a huge difference. So I suppose we're all sitting here. I'm complimenting you guys. That's what I just want to say. I think the work that you're doing is absolutely tremendous, and keep up the good work.
And
you are making a difference.
Thank you for keeping me company with your podcast, because I'm in my car all the time and I listen to you. So thank you for keeping me company for so many hours while I'm driving.
Oh, an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Gary.
Thanks, mate.